Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody back to Nassau COBA Monthly, the podcast of the Nassau County Correctional Officers Benevolent Association. My name is Brian Sullivan. I am the president. I am here with John Hogan, the second vice president. Say hello, John.
How are we doing?
This is Nassau COBA Monthly. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we've been anything but monthly going back to the beginning of March. And I want to touch a little bit on that. I got several issues I like to go over today. We're going to hopefully do 3 segments and just want to touch on several things that have been going on. Obviously, there's been a lot going on in the world the last 6 months or so, especially when it comes to Nassau Corrections. Just to touch on the COVID stuff, I put out an email to everybody a couple of months, actually a little bit while back, that we had over 100 correction officers that tested positive for COVID. I'm not even going to get into the inmates. I'm not, the inmates are our concern, but for the purposes of this, I'm not going to get into inmates.
No.
We had 8 correction officers that were hospitalized with COVID. Some of them were pretty bad, and we thought that they were going to, 1 or 2 of them, we thought were going to get ventilated. Thank God nobody did. Everybody rolled back into the system. We were out of COVID cases in the jail since the end of... we
were good for a few weeks.
We were good for a few weeks there. Thank God we've had a couple of people that went out with symptoms, but they've come back. We haven't gotten any staff, thank God. We just had an inmate that tested positive this past weekend for it. That throws everything into a loop jail-wise with sending people upstate and things like that. But the main thing that I want to concentrate on here without rehashing all of that stuff is that I hope everybody fully understands that this thing is still 100% real, and you need to pay attention to your own personal safety with this. You need to wear your mask, you need to do hand sanitizers, wash your hands, all of that stuff that we talk about all the time. But you see what's going on across the rest of the country. There's hot spots all over. It's like the rest of the country is on fire. And New York and New Jersey and Connecticut, that was the worst in the beginning of it. We're past it, but we can't look at this like it's going to be that we are past it. This thing could turn around on us in a second. You get into the fall and everything else, and these things come back, and the flus come back, and people get loose, and you see everything going on in beaches and all this stuff. You have to be vigilant. You have to if it's not to take care of yourself, it's to take care of your family, your elders, all of that. I was talking before, I had a couple of family members that passed that were COVID related, and it's not something that you can take for granted. I know a lot of people on this job have had family members die. There's one poor girl, I'm not going to put her name out on Broadway. She lost several family members over the last couple of months, and it's just people have to pay attention to the fact that this is real. It's not going away. We don't know about, vaccines or anything like that. So we're just going to have to pay attention to this. And who knows if there's going to be a vaccine? Who knows if people are going to want to take the vaccines, because we have the whole anti-vaxxer thing out there. You're
definitely make you nervous.
You're going to grow a knob out of your forehead or something if you take the vaccine. Some people would rather get COVID, God forbid.
We definitely have to use everything at our disposal. We have a lot of tools. We have the sanitizers. We have the masks, gowns, face shields. All you have to do is ask.
All you have to do is ask. There's tons of it there. We have plenty of stuff in the jail. We still have a supply in the union office that I'm kind of saving for a rainy day a little bit, but hopefully the rainy day doesn't come, but if it does, we want to be fully prepared. With that being said, I want to swing into the other major issue that's been going on over the last several months here. It's the civil unrest that's gone on in the streets. And my main objective as the president of the Correctional Officers Benevolent Association is the health and welfare, well-being, and job security and health and all of that of Nassau County Correction Officers, as an offshoot of law enforcement officers in this country, in this state. You all know that I've been very, very outspoken, especially over the last couple of years with this bail reform stuff, with the changeover in the mindset in the state Senate and the Assembly and the government that's running New York State, where when this COVID thing started, first responders, healthcare workers, cops, firemen, I tried to get us out there as much as correction officers. We're going to stop and thank everybody at 7 o'clock at night and bang pots and pans and thank all the first responders. That changed real quick when this whole disaster, this mess happened in Minneapolis with the killing of George Floyd. And you can't have any conversation without addressing the fact that this guy what the hell's his name, Derek Chauvin, he killed this guy out in Minneapolis. I mean, and it's as plain as the nose on your face, and there's no taking anything back, and nobody in a uniform anywhere on this planet can defend the actions of Derek Chauvin when it came to George Floyd. That triggered, obviously, a backlash across the country of rightful protests against what went on, and people that get out and speak. And then we've had things go on here in New York State, and all kinds of movements have started, and Black Lives Matter movement, and the Blue Lives Matter movement, and everybody else. It seems, whether it's tied in with the COVID, the COVID, what do you call it, lockdowns, and everybody's inside. Everybody is just pissed off at everything. And if there's nobody in the middle anymore. You're either on one side or the other. You're either pro cop or if you're pro cop, you're a racist, or if you're against the cops or whatever else. And I honestly don't know where the hell this is all going to land, because the world's in probably some of the worst shape. Our country, and especially this state, is in the worst shape that it's been in a long time. I mean, we've had halfway decent race relations that have been going on the last, at least in my mind. I'm sure there may be people out there that'll disagree with me, but I think we've had good race relations until some of this stuff that just went on. And then obviously there are organizations that have co-opted the protests. There are peaceful protests out there, and I've spoken to some of the black officers on our job that have expressed frustrations and things that go on. And we had a little bit of a interesting dynamic chat at our last general membership meeting that brought a lot of things to light. And I just want to make sure that everybody on this job understands that, and I've gotten in conversations. I said it at the general membership meeting before, and some people can disagree with me. You can disagree with me all you want, but I consider the fact that I don't represent races of correction officers. I don't represent black officers or white officers or Asian officers or Hispanic officers. I represent correction officers, and that to me is the overriding and underlying issue that keeps everybody on an even playing field and makes everything fair for everybody. Because if a lot of times different organizations and the black organizations, the Italians, the Irish, they come to the union and they have agendas. They'll have a political agenda. They'll have whatever else they want to get something done through the state. And a lot of times I keep the fraternal organizations at bay, because the agendas of a lot of the political organizations. I'm Irish. I've had the Emerald Society, come at us several times in the past where they want certain things done, and I've pissed them off because I won't do things for the Emerald Society just because I'm Irish, because it doesn't benefit correction officers as a whole. And then you'll have organizations that want to go up and make deals with themselves for the sheriff and everything else, and they want to have certain things brought to parades and things like that. I'll either stay away from it, or I'll remind the administration upstairs in the county that they have to be very careful getting involved, because I have to worry about direct dealing from our members. No matter who they are, I got to make sure that people aren't trying to cut their own deals, because that undercuts keeping everybody on this job on an even playing field. And to me, if a union is fighting for the average correction officer, and I say this to my guys all the time, and people can disagree with me because we get involved in the politics, but if a union is fighting for the lowest guy on the totem pole, the ones that are making the punches, the ones that are dealing with the inmates, everything else falls in line. Because we've had problems in the past with contracts and things like that, where you give up the unborn or something like that. But you have to. We've hopefully corrected a lot of those sins of the past, the 1% and things like that. But if you're fighting for the average correction officer, you're not. I'm a boss on the job. I'm a supervisor. I'm not fighting just for the supervisors. You're fighting for the lowest guys. Everybody else falls into place. Now, that being said, and I'm sure it'll create a little bit of a stir, because I can be very opinionated on my own Facebook page. I have about 1,100 friends on Facebook, and I get involved in a lot of political stuff. I shy away from anything that's got racially motivated things because it's not in the benefit of all correction officers. If some people they can't help themselves, they get on Facebook, and that's one of the things that I have to swing into is the social media stuff that's gone on. And it came up at the general membership meeting, and it came up at the sheriff's forum that he had about a week afterwards. And we have people on this job, there are people in the police department that think they can put their personal opinions on social media, and with racially motivated intentions, with incendiary comments and things like that. And it's not necessarily criminal what anybody says, because you have a First Amendment right to say whatever you want, but think before you hit send. John Hogan tells me that all the time. Don't hit send when I get pissed off with certain things, with emails that I got to send out to people that I'm fighting with in the administration.
We need it's a definite need of the department to have a social media policy.
We have to have a social media.
Have to.
And I've been on the county administration. I've been on the department administration, going back to when Vera was here, even going back to when Spazzato was here. We have to have a social media policy in this department, because there has to be fail safes for when who the hell knows, somebody's having a couple of cocktails 2:00 in the morning. They think they can say whatever they want, and who gives a shit, and come and get me. Well, guess what? People are going to come and get you. They're going to call you to task on it. You can have your opinions. I'm never going to change racism in this country myself, being the president of COBA. I'm never going to change people's hatreds for other people or people's opinions. But that doesn't mean you get to go out there and you get to crap on people because you think you can. There are a lot of people on this job that have very, very intense opinions about things, and like I said before, I've led protests against our government with regard to our contract, with regard to political things, with regard to some of our local representatives. I would be the biggest hypocrite in the world if I was to sit here and say people can't go out and say whatever they want. But you also have to realize that you're going to have people protesting that don't have the same opinions as you do, or they may have family members that are out there protesting. They're not throwing bricks, they're not breaking windows, they're not beating cops over the head. They have an opinion that they want to get out there, and the Constitution protects their right. You can't just go out there and say whatever you want to offend these people, because it could be one of your partner's daughters or friends or nieces or fathers. Who knows? As long as people are protesting peacefully, they're not breaking things, they're not bashing cops over the head. That thing that went on in Chicago we were looking at yesterday, where
that was horrible.
Where they got these cops cornered into a thing in Chicago,
surrounded them,
and there was hundreds of people throwing bottles and rocks and all kinds of things at the cops and hitting them in the head. That's absurd. That's not peaceful protest. That's criminality. That's got nothing to do with getting your opinion out there. And I will never support that, no matter what anybody says. The welfare of our members is my utmost importance. I don't care what color you are, what race you are, what your sexual orientation is. I don't give a rat's ass what goes on in your personal life. The welfare of you and your families is utmost importance to me, not your political ideology, not what your political opinions are. You're entitled to all of that, and I won't get involved with it. Your welfare, your contract, your health benefits, your retiree benefits, that's my number one concern. And then, I mean, you look at some of the other stuff that's gone on. There's been deaths. There's been deaths of police and of people in police custody, deaths of people in correctional custody. I look at things from a different perspective. The key observations, the law enforcement officer deaths, this is what I look at. 28 law enforcement officers were feloniously killed in the first months of 2020, which represents a almost 17% increase compared to 24 officers that were killed in the same period in 2009. That's what concerns me, that because of all of this stuff going on, there's a 17% increase in felonious deaths of law enforcement officers in the United States. You look at the correction officer line of duty deaths so far this year, there's been 56. The overwhelming obviously are related to COVID. That's what I'm concerned about. That what are we doing to make sure that our members are protected because of COVID? 56 correction officers died in the United States because of COVID. That's absurd. you go into some statistics from the American Correctional Officer Intelligence Network and different correctional officer organizations. There's nearly twice as many police officers in the nation as there are correction officers. There's 800,000 roughly police officers, 415,000 800,000 police officers, 415,000 correction officers. But on average, there are 130 police suicides every year compared to average 156 correction officer suicides. There's twice as many cops in this country, and correction officers have just as many more suicides. That doesn't include suicides that for officers that are retired or separated from service. USA Today reports that an estimated 103 suicides annually for other first responders, which includes firefighters, EMTs, all of that. 103 for all of those other first responders, and there's 156 just for correction officers. We have to witness assaults, rapes, homicides, riots, fires, medical emergencies, robberies, escapes, any other emergency, and we're not only the first responders in correctional facilities, we're the only responders. We have a 34% PTSD rate compared to 18% for police officers and 20% for returning war veterans. There's a 20% average PTSD rate for returning war veterans, and correction officers on average have a 34% PTSD rate. This is what I'm concerned about. There's an average of 11 correction officers that are killed in the line of duty each year. And to me, this is the stuff that needs to be addressed. There are so many other issues where a correction officer's average death date is on their 58th birthday. A correction officer will be seriously assaulted at least twice in a 20-year career. We live on average 18 months after retirement. We have a 39% higher suicide rate, like I said, higher divorce and substance abuse rates than anybody else. This is the stuff that we really, really need to be concerning ourselves with. Everybody's political ideologies can be compartmentalized into somewhere else. I don't want that brought into our environment where the message of protecting our officers is of paramount importance to all of us. We need to be backing each other up. We can't be shit-talking each other on Facebook. We can't be worried about, if people are going to respond to a body alarm because they don't know who they are. You never know. I tell this, and John can back me up on this. We go to every academy class, and I tell the people, look around the recruits, look around the room and see who's in there. You're going to get some best friends for life in this academy class if you stay on this job and you don't go somewhere else. There's going to be people in this place that you don't give a rat's ass about. You may never want to talk about them. You may think that they're assholes. You may not want to deal with them at all. But some of the people in that room may very well save your life someday in the environment that we work in. And everybody better get that through their heads, that the people on this job are the ones who are going to back you up. It's never going to be the department administration. It's certainly never going to be the county administration. Everything is about money with them. You have to look out for each other. We have to look out for each other. Put all of this other bullshit aside. If you have grievances, you come to the union. If you have racial issues that you want brought out, there is methods to go down that road with EEO and human rights and all that type of stuff. And I will guide you down all those roads if you need help in some issue that comes up. But always, always remember that when the shit hits the fan in the dorm, you want somebody to come and get you. And I don't care what color you are, what sex you are, what your politics are. If I'm in there, I'm coming for you. If I'm in the building as a body alarm, I'm responding to it. So is everybody else in the union. If you're in there, and you better be responding, and you better know that we back each other up, and that's it. I'm going to take a break now. We'll get into a second segment. This is Nassau COBA Monthly. I'm Brian Sullivan. Me and John will be right back.
Hillix & Jean is the #1 medical wellness company on Long Island. Their unique system was created by medical physicians, functioning medical practitioners, and spine stabilization specialists. Through proper scientific use of their in-house DNA technology and their #1 rated food sensitivity test, Hillix & Jean is able to collect information from your body that will help you become your best self. Their emphasis is on your health. Weight loss is just a byproduct. The most unique aspect of their program is their personal coaches. This separates them from any other program in the market. Helix and Jean clients are never alone. From the moment they decide to embark on their journey to the very end, the ongoing support and guidance clients receive from nutrition and fitness coaches is truly what helps them succeed. Our coaches are there to hold your hand until they feel that you are ready to sustain yourself. Unlike other programs, Helix and Jean clients learn how to sustain what the program has taught them. You can find out more about Helix and Jean by visiting www.helixandjean.com or calling 516-723-9854. That's www.helixandjean.com or 516-723-9854.
All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Nassau COBA Monthly for the month of July. I'm the president of the Correctional Officers Benevolent Association of Nassau County, Brian Sullivan. I'm here with John Hogan. We're going to go into John Hogan, the second vice president of the union. I'm going to go into the second segment, which is basically to talk about what's going on in the jail right now. The consolidation, the shrinking of everything that's going on in our facility. And I have to remind everybody, because I know there's a lot of people pissed off about what's going on, about floors closing and buildings closing and things like that. Nobody on this job or anybody within the sound of my voice can say that they are surprised by what's going on in our facility right now. I've been talking about this for the better part of the last 3 years.
Since bail reform actually became law?
Since bail reform became a concept, and long before it actually even became a law to put in, we know that our inmate population has been shrinking here over the last several years. I say it all the time over the general course of my career here. Our inmate population should be anywhere from 1,400 to 1,700 or 1,800, depending on what's going on in the world. Right before I got back in the union in 2016, our inmate head count was probably around 1,200, 1,100, 1,200. Not bad, because when I was when I was doing the paperwork and stuff, now when I was doing the use of force reports and I was doing that stuff and reviewing everybody's reports, I used to have to do the inmate count every day, and it was getting down right around the end. It was getting down to 1,100, something like that, and that was just from the arraignment courts and the judges and the politicians and all the crazies. Just saying, let everybody out. We don't want people in jail. And it was more of it. And how many times did I stand in front of the ledge and talking about it?
Every year.
That they want to unincarcerate or disincarcerate, whatever the word may be, get people out of jail because they don't want to pay the cost of incarceration. And it has nothing to do with with helping people or letting people out, because there are no safety nets.
They're letting them out and giving them nothing.
You're letting mentally ill people out of jail. You're letting drug addicts that are drug dependent people, mental health and drug addicts, violent people, they're letting out of jail, and there is no safety net anywhere from the federal government, the state government, down to the local governments to protect public safety. Now, you have people that, and then bail reform comes along, and bail reform was a big major thing. The beginning of this year, before COVID hit, even beforehand, I was doing a lot of public safety hearings. I was going to civic groups. I was going to high schools. The police commissioner, Pat Ryder, actually jumped on the program with me to get out and explain bail reform and discovery reform and what a disaster this is and how bad it is for public safety. Of course, they shoved everything down everybody's throats, But like I said before, getting into this stuff, nobody within the sound of my voice can say that the inmate head count, the drastic reduction in the inmate head count in our jail, that they didn't see it coming. And the resultant things that come out of it is the consolidation of the jail. As of today, today's inmate head count in-house is 587 inmates. Going back to let's say December of last year, we had around 1,100 inmates, maybe 1,150 and change. Our total head count is 623, but right now in-house we have 587 inmates. That means we've lost half our inmate population in 6 months.
And they pulled a great move too, if you remember. They let 200 out before January 1st.
Right. There was even more than that. It was almost 300, because they knew I was going to be out there with a camera on January 2nd filming 300 inmates get let out of the jail. And they knew it because I got tipped off from people that the politicians were petrified that we were going to be standing out there with a video camera filming 300 people marching up Common Avenue.
They'd
like
have a
an invading
conga line
force.
walking down the block.
Walking down the block, walking up to Hempstead
Right past the
Turnpike.
high school.
Right past the high school, right past the old age home that's next door. So what did they do for the last month and a half? They let them out in dribs and drabs. They let 300 inmates out. Then after that was all done, then COVID hits, and we let another 200 inmates out. Now COVID hits, they're not arresting anybody. Now you have all this civil unrest and all the nonsense that's going on in the world, and the cops aren't arresting anybody. Everybody's out there with a hands-off thing. We have arraignment court over in police headquarters that's going on right now. More than half the time, they're not bringing any remands back. Does anybody think that crime is not happening in Nassau County? That crime is not happening in New York City? Look at what's going on in the city in particular, and we border this city. The homicide rates are way up. The robbery rates are way up. The gun violence is way up. They disbanded the anti-crime unit in the city, and now you have all these leaders in the city, including leaders of black organizations, saying that you have to bring back the anti-crime unit because of all of these neighborhoods. The gun violence and the crime is gone way up, and people are getting killed left and right, while Mayor de Blasio had the nerve to go to that poor woman's house and stand on her front porch when the what was it, a year-old baby or 4-month-old baby, whatever it was sitting in the, I forget how.
I think a year-old
was sitting at a barbecue and got shot in the stomach and gets killed from crossfire between gangs. And that son of a bitch goes and stands on this woman's porch, and we're going to find the people that did this. You did this, Bill. You and all these lunatics that put this bail reform in and all of these crazy laws, these anti-law enforcement laws, anti-law and order laws, I should say, that all they do is empower criminals. You see what's gone on in this. You know, we've gotten so far from the broken windows policing in the city that took all the guns off the street. You had families walking around in Times Square. I told my wife and my family, I hear you say anything about going into Manhattan, I'm going to knock you down before you go anywhere near it. You're not going into that city.
I have a family member that works right outside of Times Square on 51st Street. I don't want to send them back.
Don't want to send them back.
No,
and
not at all.
The stuff that these poor cops got to deal with, and if the cops are dealing with it, what's the average person on the street dealing with walking around? But I'll get off on a rant here with all that stuff. But it's just, I mean, they went back the beginning of the session in Albany, and they changed some of the laws. They put some things back, like the Class A felony drug charges and the burglaries and robberies and stuff like that. It all sounds good. They put that all back in where you could get bail for that. But the one thing that they didn't take out was they did not give the judges back discretion over what to do, and they also have to release you on the least restrictive means possible. So sure, it's back under bail again, but if the bail is not the least restrictive means possible, they're cutting you loose.
How about the travel restrictions with the guy from Fishkill? I'm going to massacre this name. Right. Yeah, Batham. Right. He doesn't want anybody going.
Any of the people from his district going into the city, stay out of the city. And actually, in the
Patty
third,
Ryder, right, just did it too.
In the third section of this, I'm going to get into what's going on with that because I made a request of the sheriff also to put things out. But I'll get into that in the next section. But when you have politicians telling you stay out of New York City, you have law enforcement agencies telling their own people stay out of New York City. Something's seriously friggin' wrong here. But getting back to how that affects us in our jail, when you have 1,100, 1,200 inmates, just think if we had 1,600 inmates in here, like I said, everything would be open. There'd be, God only knows what they would do with the staffing here if we had to do whatever. The county's $750 million in the hole projected for the last quarter of this year, and God only knows what that's going to bring with us for contract negotiations and everything else and all that stuff. It's if the federal government doesn't start kicking in some money here, and there's a lot of potential hurt that's facing us down the road. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist, and I'm not saying that I'm looking to do the county any favors, because we're certainly not, because we're here dealing with this stuff.
We've been raped enough.
They can praise us all they want. They can give us ribbons and bars and talk about, and Laura Curran can talk about us on at her press conferences what a great job we've done. When it comes down to it, there's loving us, and then there's loving us, and when the money comes, we're the first ones to get it. And with all this consolidation, I know a lot of our staff is pissed off because of the consolidation. They're pissed off at the administration. They're pissed off at the county administration. They're pissed off at the union. Why is the union allowing this to go on? No one's allowing anything to go on. What the real the realistic thing that's going on here is the fact that there's 587 inmates in our jail. I can't stand in front of a news camera or a legislative podium and say and demand to keep all of our housing areas open when there's no inmates here. And that's no fault of our own officers. We've had this staffing crisis for the last 3 years where people couldn't go home. Now you have things going on where there's no inmates here, and I don't know where the bottom is, or if there is a bottom. Suffolk County has inmates in the high 4s. And they're not arresting people. The DWIs, they came out and said that all these DWIs, there was probably about 100 of them that are supposed to be coming into our jail once COVID let up and they're going to do their time. They're not coming. They ended up kicking all of them over to probation. Probation is going to monitor them because they're nonviolent crimes, so they're not even coming in to do crimes here. The sheriff has said that he wants to bring feds in here. I don't necessarily know where they're going to get the feds from, because you go back to Donald Trump on the federal level. They did the First Step Act. That was nothing more than a prison dump. That goes back to a year or two ago, right. A little bit more. But where are the feds supposed to come from? That was another prison dump on the federal level because Kim Kardashian asked Donald Trump to let everybody out of jail. So I guess, it's primetime TV is running the criminal justice system on the federal level now. But they have no safety net. All these people that have been in jail on the federal, again, where's their safety net? It's nothing. It's just dump people out of jail onto the public who has to deal with them, and a law enforcement arena that's been crippled by liberal progressive nonsense. And it's not Democrats and Republicans, because I am neither. I mean, I'm conservative in my beliefs, and people think I'm a Trump supporter. I'm a union president. How could I be a Trump supporter when he's putting judges in there that want to disband unions?
He put Janice out there. Yeah.
They put Janice out there, and I'm sure Donald Trump would. He loves law enforcement. He backs us up 100%, but he wants us all to be getting paid $8 an hour. That all sounds wonderful. But then you have on the other side the liberals and the progressive that want us dead. They want us gone.
Defund us.
They defund us. They want to disband jails. I mean, how absurd is it when you have these, like, to get back to some of the protests and stuff, when you have like a 35-year-old white woman screaming at a black cop that he should go F himself, but she's out there protesting for racial equality. I don't understand what's going on in the world. This poor guy standing there doing his job, and he's got to have some, what do they call them, Karens. He's got to have some Karen screaming in his face that he's a piece of shit because he's a cop. I mean, are you absolutely, the guy's got a family to support, and you're going to get up and get in his face. But this is where I don't understand where this whole world is going to. I don't know where the bottom is going to be with letting everybody out of jail. Our inmate head count is half, like I said, that it was since January. Suffolk County's in the high 4s. It's mind-boggling to me what's going on here, because there's no common sense. There's nobody in the middle of the road saying, "Wait a minute, this is crazy. You're crazy all the way on the right. You're crazy all the way on the left." Everybody's afraid to say anything, because if you say one thing pro-police, you're a racist. If you say something, in support of Black Lives Matter, you hate the cops. So there's no common sense whatsoever in the middle here, and the poor areas are the ones that are getting hurt the worst. The average citizen is the one that's getting hurt the worst. There's people roaming the streets, and we all know, and they're not locking them up. Where this ends, as far as the consolidation, we're going to fight on our end, because there's some issues here where I just cannot fight to keep areas open where there's a consolidation here. And no, I'm not in bed with the administration. I'm not helping them out money-wise. I just have no argument when there's no inmates here. But when you have security issues, those are the things that we're going to continue to fight for. Perimeter patrol. I know there was a perimeter patrol thing cut where we're constantly on the sheriff and the county to reinstate some of the perimeter patrol stuff, especially with all the things going on out in the street. Some of the areas in our facility, which I'm not going to say here on a public podcast, we got some Swiss cheese in our area, and things they need to be plugged with security personnel, and I'm going to continue to fight for that, and I'm hoping that the new administration is going to see our point in that. So, as far as moving forward, it's crazy. I got something that I want to talk about, going into the last statement of this, but I don't know if, John, did you want to add anything about the consolidation and things like that, the way the administration is running?
I had some officers today. I was up checking one of the housing areas, and I heard from two different guys, we need Spazzato back here. Now, this is the same guy we wanted to. We're in this situation because of that guy.
Right.
This building is falling apart. He never put a dime into it. Communications lacking. How they can possibly say, and I laughed at him. I don't lose my cool too much, but I think I did today, and the guy's probably laughing when he hears this. But he cranked me up so much on, we should bring Spazzato back here. I told him if Spazzato was here January 1st, we all would have been in the garage.
Yep, they would have closed B Building January 1st, or at the as soon as bail reform happened, or when COVID hit. People have very, very short memories, and that comes with everything across the board. That's politics
out of their minds.
That's just it's you always blame the ones that are there, and the ones that are gone actually weren't as bad as you thought they were. But if you brought the other one back, you'd want them dead in 5 minutes. We dragged coffins up and down Common Avenue when Mike Spazzato was here because he was putting all of our lives in danger. And that is the guy that put this jail into the situation that it is and the condition that it is now, because he came to work every day with a red pen looking to cut something and didn't give a rat's ass about anybody's safety here or what went on. Then we went into Vera, and Vera did nothing for 2 years. And Vera, I did all of this stuff when we were campaigning. Vera gave our jobs away to the deputies, and we're still in court fighting over jobs because we couldn't get Vera to act on anything. Now we have a new administration of people that have run jails before and done everything else, and there's a lot of people are trying to get their feet wet as far as to how they're going to get along with them, because they're not used to people that know what they're talking about when it comes to corrections, and they're getting stepped on. I think if it was an elected sheriff and our current sheriff was an elected sheriff, he'd be a lot more like Toulon is in Suffolk County, who runs his own jail and does what he's got to do. But he's got pressure. He's consolidated everything out there. They kept things open.
They're all in one jail now, right? Out in Yaphank?
Yeah, to my knowledge, they are. But they've consolidated everything out there. I mean, there's 580 inmates in Suffolk County. They're not keeping all the two big jails open with all the floors open. It's just not happening. But so just stick with us with all this stuff, and I'm going to get into something at the end that I want to wrap it. Let's bring Spazzato will fix everything in this jail. Bring him back. God Almighty, help us. Brian Sullivan, Nassau COBA Monthly. Stick around. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Helix & Jean is the #1 medical wellness company on Long Island. Their unique system was created by medical physicians, functioning medical practitioners, and spine stabilization specialists. Through proper scientific use of their in-house DNA technology and their #1 rated food sensitivity test, Helix & Jean is able to collect information from your body that will help you become your best self. Their emphasis is on your health. Weight loss is just a byproduct. The most unique aspect of their program is their personal coaches. This separates them from any other program in the market. Helix & Jean clients are never alone. From the moment they decide to embark on their journey to the very end, the ongoing support and guidance clients receive from nutrition and fitness coaches is truly what helps them succeed. Our coaches are there to hold your hand until they feel that you are ready to sustain yourself. Unlike other programs, Helix & Jean clients learn how to sustain what the program has taught them. You can find out more about Helix & Jean by visiting www.helixandjean.com or calling 516-723-9854. That's www.helixandjean.com or 516-723-9854.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Brian Sullivan, President, Nassau County Correctional Officers Benevolent Association. This is Nassau COBA Monthly, July 2020. I'm here with John Hogan. Say hello again, John.
How we doing?
This is our last segment for this installment, and I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. John, I think you brought in that, obviously the question is still there about the comp time and the longevity and stuff like that.
That was stuff I was hearing this morning. The comp time, longevity, where we were. I really have a hard time with it because we send out emails, COBA Blast. We need you guys to read these emails. Read the COBA Blast. We're putting out more information than we've ever have before. Stay up to date. Right. If you got a question, call us.
Definitely call
Everybody's
us.
Got our numbers. Our numbers are if you don't have our phone number, it's at the desk. Ask the guy right next to you what our numbers are. we're accessible 24 hours a day. Pretty much everybody is called.
Both control desk, communications, everybody has all our numbers. You know where our office is. If anybody wants to stop by, you have any questions. It just gets a little frustrating sometimes when people sometimes just want to stir the pot and just crank things up because you may be pissed off about something else, but then you want to go after the union or go after the administration or go after individuals or go after anybody. Just know what the real issues are, because we everybody has enough on their plates, especially the officers working in some of these shitty situations in these dorms, because we don't exactly have a lesser caliber of inmate now. The ones that are in here are guys that are have bigger issues. But just the biggest thing I can say about this is information is utmost important. Information is power. Don't listen to rumors. God, there's so many rumors going around today. Today the rumors are just beyond belief, and some of the stuff that comes out. And if you're not taking the time to vet out rumors or to see what's really going on, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you need to know what's really going on. Don't listen to some nonsense that somebody stirred up, this, I heard it in the OM, all of that stuff, so it must be true.
Right.
But when
you're repeating. Then you're repeating it, and it's going on and on and on.
And the telephone game, and it grows
nonsense.
bigger and bigger and bigger, and then our phones are blowing up off the hook. And by the time it gets to us, did this really happen today? Whatever. And you're like, where the hell did you hear this from? And everybody's whipped up into a frenzy over something that somebody dreamed up, last night.
Right.
With regard to the class action grievance against the county, failure to give us our emergency comp time, just to remind everybody, and this goes back to April, and I understand that it's July now, but there's no arbitrations being heard. The money is not just going to magically appear not the money, the time, the comp time is not just going to magically appear. We all know that the county is fighting on this issue. As you all know, Section 38-14 of our contract states any employee who is required to remain at work after the county executive or designated representative has dictated that extraordinary circumstances exist for that particular geographic region or location within Nassau County shall receive equivalent compensatory time off at straight time, hour for hour, as the employees who were sent home or directed not to work. For some reason, there are those that are under the impression that COBA did not intend to fight to have this clause in our contract in force. If you review past emails, blah, blah, blah. I'm writing you an email and reading you an email now that actually goes back. To be clear, COBA has had numerous conversations and correspondence with the county as well as other bargaining units in Nassau regarding the comp time issue. We have demanded that we be compensated for what our contract directs. The county has wavered numerous times in their responses. At the same time, they directed other departments to keep records of this comp time in the chief payroll system, which is the police department and their civilians, and the in-time payroll system, which is most other county employees. Our department has the NERS payroll system where our hours of work are easily accounted for. To date, just to be clear, no employee in any other county agency that is accounting for these comp time hours has been allowed to utilize any of this time. What the county has repeatedly stated to us and other unions is that while they are accounting for this time, they have no intention of actually allowing any employees to utilize it because of what they claim is the fiscal impact it would have on the county. Right now, they're projecting a $750 million operating budget hole by the end of this year. There are hundreds of thousands of hours, if not millions of hours of comp time that would have to be credited to every Nassau County employee. The county is not doing it. With this regard to the county, we have demanded that the county and the department keep accurate records of our time accruals, as they're doing with other people. We also ask that our members keep accurate account of all the time worked, so we can, hour for hour, all of that stuff. With everything said, we have filed a class action grievance against the county for their failure to properly enforce Section 38-14 of our contract. This is going to be going in front of an arbitrator, and I never say that anything is a slam dunk, because when you get an issue like this, particularly an issue with that type of fiscal impact, who knows what's going to go on in front of an arbitrator. We know that we've done things in front of arbitrators where we've won arbitrations, and the county takes us to court anyway. We have binding arbitration for contract grievances and disciplinaries, and the county sometimes still takes us to court because they don't want to have it. Sometimes we have to take the county to court to enforce arbitration decisions that we have. Because of COVID, we have not had any arbitrations. This is probably going to be heard in the fall. Most likely, it's going to be heard in the fall when our first things come up to play. The county had one or two that they did video arbitrations with CSEA, and the county pulled out of it because they claimed that the union was able to somehow manipulate the thing with witnesses or whatever, so they're fighting them with them. We've had numerous conversations with this, and we're forcing the issue because we have some issues that have to go in front of arbitrations. We still have issues that are in courts. The courts are slowly starting to reopen. We're starting to get, now we have dates in the fall. Nothing is changed with this. Everybody just make sure that you implicitly know we did not give anything away. We don't intend to give anything away. We don't intend to not fight this vigorously, but it's not going to just show up in your paycheck until we have the arbitration heard, and all of the lockdowns and the COVID stuff has been holding up the arbitrations. So everybody needs to just bear with us and understand, and this is not like the federal NIFA lawsuit, which the NIFA lawsuit, we're going to the U.S. Supreme Court about it. We're finally at the Supreme Court, and just so everybody knows, our attorneys are all working together preparing the briefs to go to submit to the U.S. Supreme Court. They may not hear it. If they don't hear it, we're done. If they do hear it, then there's other issues. I'll get into that down the road. But this issue with the comp time, it's not like it's going to last 10 years for that, because that one went back and forth between courts and federal courts and state courts, and it was a gigantic disaster. This is a local state issue, and hopefully we'll have this thing. I'm not going to say it's going to be wrapped up, because if we win, then the county's going to appeal it, whatever else. But it's an arbitration, and if an arbitrator rules, they'll do whatever. We could end up in court. We could not end up in court. We're probably looking at somewhere like a year down the road at least before we have any kind of a finalization of this comp time issue, unless the county comes to their senses and decides to credit us with that. But if you think that's going to happen, stand on your front lawn and wait for the unicorn to come down. Longevity, it's the same issue with longevity. We are in court with that. I believe that we're waiting on oral arguments with that, but they've been held up because of the COVID stuff. That's another local state issue that's going to go on. Laura Curran said she wanted a legal opinion on that from a judge. She got her legal opinion, didn't like it, and
basically lied.
Went to court and basically lied about it. So this is what business is. This is what union business is in Nassau County. You're dealing with people that change. Let's just say they change their minds when they don't like what they hear. With that being said, the crux of the final thing here is just to kind of wrap up a couple of issues with this stuff that's gone on in New York City, and the police commissioner of Nassau County, the police commissioner, or whatever his title is in Westchester, issued directives that they don't want their people crossing over into New York City jurisdiction because of changes in the law with chokeholds and arrest procedures and things like that. That what police officers and correction officers and everybody else, the things that we've been trained to do as far as effectuating an arrest and getting someone into custody and cuffing them, if you do that in New York City now, you could actually be charged with a misdemeanor or a crime. So in the official conduct of your duties. Nassau County basically said that they don't want anybody going into New York City unless they have a supervisor. Westchester came out with a thing also. They don't want anybody conducting any. This was all publicized in the Post and in the Daily News. They don't want anybody in Westchester even chasing anybody into New York City because of the nonsense that's gone on with the way they've changed laws in the city. John said before that that councilman up in East Fishkill put out a general travel advisory to all the residents in Fishkill: stay the hell out of New York City because of all these hotspots and the fact that gun violence and murders and everything else have gone up exponentially. Do yourself a favor, keep yourself and your family out of New York City. It's incredible what's going on, and that they think it's okay in New York City for this stuff, and they stand there and ignore the fact that the city's on fire crime-wise, but don't want to pay attention to it because of whatever the political motivations may be. I have asked our sheriff to put something out, and to my understanding, he had already been working on it to put some sort of a directive out for when our people have to cross the city lines for any reason. We have our transportation guys that go in to Rikers Island, go into different places. They go into Cadman Plaza in the city. We're going to need some sort of directive with this because, God forbid, somebody comes across a situation. There has to be direction out there to make sure that our guys and girls' asses aren't hanging in the breeze if they have to get involved in some situation. Lastly, to wrap this up, a lot of people, I've said, are pissed off. People are pissed off because, overtime is drying up. People are pissed off because buildings are closing. They're pissed off because of COVID. They're pissed off because of the crime stats. There's one common denominator here. And I don't care what your political ideologies are. That's your business. Everybody's entitled to it. The welfare of our members and the welfare of us as law enforcement officers is what's paramount to this union. And if you want to do something about this and you want to say you want something done, instead of just being on Facebook, throwing crap around or bullshitting with somebody out at a bar somewhere, or just complaining on a floor or whatever, you need to get involved. The 7 executive board members of this union or the 12 delegates of this union are not going to change the climate in New York State on our own. Neither are the boards of any of the police unions or any of their delegates. Collectively, what needs to happen here is there's an election coming up in November, and everybody knows there's an election coming up in November because that's a lot of what the motivations are behind Fox News and MSNBC killing each other, because they want to get Trump out, they want to get liberals out, they want to get this one out, they want to get that one out. When you look at what's gone on in New York State, New York City, but New York State in particular, over the last couple of years, and especially in the last year with bail reform and some of the insane laws that are being proposed that are going on right now about making every law enforcement officer has to go out and purchase $1 million in liability insurance. There's about things adjusting what can go on with people's peace officer status. These are direct attacks on law enforcement. There are numerous. There's probably dozens of bills that have been sitting dormant from some of these completely. They're not even just liberals. They're as far as I'm concerned, they're nuts. What goes on? Close jails, defund the police department is one thing, but just get rid of the police department completely. No social programs for anybody. If anybody thinks you're going to defend the police in New York City, take $1 billion away from them, and they're going to put all of those things into social programs, and it's going to help the communities, you're deluding yourselves. All it is lowering the cost of government, and that's what's going on, and taking uniforms off the street, taking uniforms out of jail. People think that that there's some sort of a utopian thing that's going to be out there. You see the fruits of it already. The crime rates in New York City, even the crime rate in Nassau County, there was 3,500 people. There was an independent study came out in Nassau County, been arrested since January 1st of this year. 3,100 and change were released at court. And the other ones that are held, they're released shortly thereafter, and by the numbers in the jail. If you want to be pissed off at somebody because of the consolidation of the jail, if you want to be pissed off at somebody because of the crime rates in New York State, or things that you think that your kids are now exposed to, I don't care what race you are, I don't care what color you are. If you're pissed off, there's an election coming up. Get involved. I'm here as the president of this union for the benefit of us as law enforcement officers, as is everybody else in the New York State that represents law enforcement officers. If you don't like how you're being treated as a law enforcement officer in New York State, we have to get involved. You have to get involved. You can't sit back and say, what did the union do about it? Those 19 guys, 19 people aren't out there, changing the world. We have almost 800 members here. We have hundreds of retiree members here. You need to be involved. You need to put boots in the street. We're going to be coming and calling on you in the fall to go out after certain people. We have to expose the anti-law enforcement agenda. You need to be involved. You can't say, Everybody's got wives, everybody's got kids, everybody's got, I can't do this today. I got my kid's game. I can't do that tomorrow. Bullshit. But you'll have plenty of time to sit on Facebook and talk shit about the union, talk shit about politics, talk shit about senators and assemblymen and all of this stuff, and Cuomo and the city and what assholes they all are. Get your ass up in the fall. Support your union's agenda, which is the law enforcement agenda and protecting your job. Because if you don't get out there, you don't, as far as I'm concerned, you don't have a right to bitch. If you don't get out there and put your own boots on the street and help everybody to make a move and get rid of some of these people that want to see you gone, and that's as simple as it is. So the
Long Island Six,
the Long Island Six in particular,
these guys told you they didn't even read the bill.
They didn't even read the bail reform bill. The Long Island Six, which is all Democrats, and listen, don't get me wrong, the Republicans are no charms on the other side either.
We didn't get any help from them.
We didn't get any help from anybody. When it came down to PPE and everything else for our people in the jail, Republicans, Democrats, nobody came out. We had
a small business owner.
Right. We had this guy, Denny.
And I picked up the phone.
Right. He gave us 10,000 masks. And I'll put him out there. He got so pissed off that now he's running against Kathleen Rice for Congress. Whether he had an agenda to do that beforehand, I have no idea. But he came out and gave our members 10,000 masks when we got nothing from other people aside from different little groups and stuff.
On both sides. On both sides of the aisle.
On both sides. That's the whole thing. If you want to effectuate change in your life in this state, get out, get involved, and try to kick some of these people to the curb and put people in office that support law enforcement. And I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans. They support law enforcement. They support our job, and they want to keep you safe. We're going to be coming out, hard in the next couple of months. I'm going to have a lot of information out, but you can't just sit by and let these people sit there and let them get away with it.
We'll be at lineups. We'll be asking for help, and we'll be there on Monday, and we'll be asking for help on Saturday.
Right.
On your days off, where you got to get up and give a couple hours.
The strength is in numbers. It's not in bitching on Facebook or Twitter. The strength is in numbers and getting out and getting the message to your family, your friends, your kids, your parents of what's really going on in the world. And that's the long and the short of it. This is Brian Sullivan, President of Nassau County Correctional Officers Benevolent Association. This is wrapping up the July 2020 edition of Nassau COBA Monthly. I hope to see you back here in another month.
James, thank you very much. Did a great job, pal.
Thanks, John. I appreciate everything. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.